What's going on, guys? My name's EFK. Welcome to the channel. And today I want to talk about Atari and whether or not Atari is a Phoenix. Now, for those who don't know what a Phoenix is, um, in a lot of historical context and whatnot, a Phoenix is basically something that will die, and then from the ashes will rise a Phoenix. It's something that keeps going back and cannot be killed. And Atari obviously has shown itself to be quite resilient. Despite multiple bankruptcies over the last few decades, they're still standing, they're still a company, they still exist. Obviously, nowadays, they are more, how do I put it, they're more of a name than they are an actual developer and publisher, but they still do exist. And I want to talk about how Atari is going to come back. Now, obviously, for those who don't know, Atari, obviously, it's not the biggest company in the world, it's not the best game publisher in the world, they don't bring in the most money either, and they recently stopped producing their console. So why do I think Atari is a Phoenix? Well, first of all, I think, in my opinion, the lack of an Atari VCS production is actually a good thing. Because from what was said by the usual Super Nintendo, uh, for every 100 VCSs that were produced, only 8 of them were sold. And to me, that's, first of all, a red flag that the VCS was not really a huge draw for a lot of people. Now, that could also come down to the fact that it wasn't released in Europe. You know, that's another big thing. You know, Atari, if you do still have some stock, please release them in Europe. I want to buy one. I ain't paying £100, whatever it is, to ship it. But besides that, you know, Atari needs to focus on its games. Now, the games Atari's been putting out are pretty good. They're pretty budget titles, pretty indie-like games. I've made a whole video talking about how Atari's basically an indie game publisher now, and that's a good thing, right? Atari should focus on the indie game publishing and games, or basically remaking their old games. You know, there are so many great games that Atari owns that are on Steam that have not been re-released on other platforms, that aren't available on, you know, PSN, Switch, or the Atari VCS itself. And I feel like that could be the next big thing for Atari to do. Atari could look at some of its legacy titles. Like, I know there's this game, I can't remember, I think it's called I can't remember what it's exactly called, but some Space Troopers or something. It's on Steam. I've bought it recently. But I know for a fact it's a really fun game. It's got really bad reviews for reasons on Steam. I'm gonna make a review of it when I finish it. But it's actually a pretty fun game in my opinion. It's pretty fun, it's sort of like a Star Wars-like game, but that game's not on Switch or Xbox or whatever, from what I can tell. Nor are a lot of other games that Atari has on their Steam profile, which is kind of unfortunate, you know. So I feel like Atari needs to do that to rise, and Atari should just keep investing in new games, new IPs, new franchises. You know, sure they sold off some franchises like Glover, you know, Alone in the Dark and Driver, but surely Atari can make a comeback if they just keep building up their library. They keep making more games, you know, whether it be small budget titles or like these big AAA games, that's down to them. You know, personally, I feel like Atari's in a really unique position because they've got all these legacy titles, and they're still an indie publisher. They're still sort of like focusing on indie games. Now, the one big thing Atari needs to do in order for it to be really deemed a Phoenix is to make a profit. Atari needs to become profitable again. I know last year, throughout 2022, they lost about €5 million. So hopefully in 2023 they can try and minimize that as much as possible, or even break even, and then in 2024 hopefully they'll be a profitable company again. Will we see it? I don't know. I don't work for Atari. I'm not, you know, an investor in Atari anymore. I just did sell my shares in Atari, so it all comes down to what we see. I can't predict the future, but hopefully Atari does rise from the ashes like a phoenix and becomes a major player once again, and could be a huge player in video games once again. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? You know, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.